Hello everyone, and welcome to GSMA Thrive, where we bring the best and brightest from the tech and telco communities together to share their experience and insights with you, the audience. I'm here today with Karl Weaver, who's currently the Global Business Development Director at AITOS.io. Karl, perhaps you can give a brief introduction to yourself and the company.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. So I'm a Greater China, India, Asia wireless market mobile device specialist. I spent my entire professional career dedicated to the designing of technologies, specifically mostly for Western companies, designing them into Asia, Greater China. And I have been doing that on both sides of the Pacific Rim for more than 3 decades. And this year I joined AITOS. AITOS is a stealth, I call it a stealthy blockchain embedded software security firm based in Shanghai. The CEO and I are former colleagues in Gemalto when I was working and living in Gemalto, and he was my partner when I was with Rivets also. So in January of this year at the CES 2020 CES show, we got together. I told him that I thought his technology was very cool because what I saw they were doing is very, very interesting. They provide an SDK which is embedded into cellular IoT modules, and that allows apps and services to basically directly run and concurrently run on the blockchain, which at this point in time, I believe we're the only company in the world that's doing that. And so I have to straddle the IoT ecosystem and the blockchain ecosystem. And what I've discovered is when you talk to the IoT people, they know very little about blockchain. When you talk to the blockchain team, it's very small, usually in one of these big mobile network operators, but we know they're going to integrate the technology. We know that. Yeah. And my job, again, is Global Biz Dev Director. I call it blockchain of AI things. And my job, if anybody is listening out there, my job is to bring all mobile network operators on board to use this technology, all service, cloud service providers, so-called blockchain systems integrators like Samsung, SDS, Accenture, et cetera, and also all you module manufacturers, because our technology is embedded into the module.
Yeah. Now, you talk about straddling there the IoT ecosystem and the blockchain ecosystem. From what I understand, it sounds as though there's also a third piece to that, which is that identity and trust element. So being able to combine all of these three so that you've got, for example, trusted device identity verification, which
that's the goal. That's the goal of the integration. The goal of the integration is to take trusted identity authentication and data privacy preserving computational protection. Those two are the keys of our what we call our blockchain module SDK. Those are the key and the goal, because the biggest problem with IoT and also the biggest problem with blockchain, the biggest problem with going on the internet, as you know, is security. And it's getting better. Actually, eSIM enhances that, something called IoT Safe, as I'm sure you guys are familiar with. But the blockchain modules, because some of them are so small, it's very difficult to put security in a small RTOS, in a small device with a small chip. It's very, very difficult to do that. But ARM is working on that. I believe Gemalto is also from their Centurion module, the MDM module business. I worked for both companies, so I know they are absolutely concerned about making sure that all these devices have security. The problem is that some of these developers don't design security as number one objective. They think of it, it's an afterthought for lots of these vendors. And my Lord, I've been preaching this Kool-Aid now for more than a decade, that security needs to come first. Unfortunately, that nobody's listening to that mantra. When I was with Gemalto, Trustonic, and ARM, still people look at it as an afterthought, and that's wrong because I look at the problems with, let's say, cryptocurrency and also relating that to the Chinese market. When you think about, okay, the Chinese have banned cryptocurrencies, crypto exchanges. They don't. You can own it, but they ban you from exchanging it and utilizing it to buy things. So it's a dichotomy, right? You can own it because it's legacy. It was there before they banned it, but you can see the logic behind why they would ban it. They are banning it because of lots of state-owned actors, domestically and globally, utilizing it in a very harmful manner, in a very harmful way. So they basically banned it. However, it is a dichotomy because they have not banned blockchain. In fact, the Chinese are moving very rapidly into utilizing blockchain for, and especially my company, we're involved in 10 different use cases with blockchain, from connected cars to factory floors to AR, VR. It's very, very cool. Anyway, to make a long story short, China is moving rapidly with their sovereign digital currency. And for them, it's a hedge against the US dollar. It's also for the Belt and Road Initiative. That's important. But it's also a hedge against illegally using and money laundering inside the country. So China's rapidly using the blockchain for many use cases, but they're not using cryptocurrencies. However, there is a token economy, and China will use tokens. How they'll use them is really the next phase.
So just let's stick on some of these uses a little bit. You know, you've mentioned obviously the identity, the security. I think you touched briefly as well on the use of the blockchain in terms of being able to create smart contracts and the
Yes.
token economy.
Yes.
And I'd be interested to know, really, I think, how that fits within the AI TOS sphere, because, you know, to some degree, you think security, contracts, identity are not obvious neighbors, and it'd be interested to understand how that all works together in your offerings and in terms of what customers are asking for.
So in my mind, they are all connected, but of course, only people who have a knowledge that any piece of software that you take on the internet, on a mobile device, is never going to be secure unless it has tamper-resistant hardware that it can be ported or embedded into. That is simply a fact. That's why we have something called secure enclaves. That's why we have hardware security modules. It is all about taking software, which has its value in the ecosystem and its value add, and embedding it into hardware, which includes the value add. And the value add is security. That's the value add of utilizing hardware. Otherwise, everything could be software and be virtual. We wouldn't have to worry about the hardware. But the software can be tampered with. The software can have state actors, can have hackers infiltrating it with man-in-the-middle attacks, malware attacks. So it is important. Now, how do these play with the IoT module? With our technology, we call it the boat, which is very interesting. I tell people, jump on the boat, navigate the boat. The boat simply means the blockchain of AI things. So the boat is middleware, which is interfacing the cellular IoT module with a few different objectives. I mentioned before, trusted identity authentication is one very, very key importance. You know, the identity of the data. Trust is so I have said this in my public speaking, trust is the most important intrinsic value that one can ever own, and that one company can ever own as well. And trust has more value than all the gold in Fort Knox. And people would say, "What are you talking about? I would prefer to go to Fort Knox and go window shopping." But no, trust needs to be confirmed. And the problem is you can't trust a lot of things because the data can be manipulated. It can be hyped. It can be faked. And that is the biggest problem with the blockchain, the biggest problem with the internet and with these IoT modules. Our technology is middleware. It interfaces directly with the cellular IoT module at the edge. And of course, it complies with 4G LTE, Cat-M, Cat 1 to 4, narrowband IoT. Any of those IoT protocols that you want to use, we can secure the data at the edge, because you need to secure the data at the edge. Just a referral, you collect the data with sensors at the edge, and there's usually multiple sensors collecting data. That data gets collected into an IoT device. The IoT device needs the IoT module in order to collect the data, and has to have a connectivity, usually a modem, has to have a connectivity method to get to the cloud. Once it's in the cloud, then you can do many other things. So what we do is we provide that protection at the edge, at the IoT module, to make sure that the data, when it's coming in, is protected. Now, a cool thing about these IoT modules is they add AI at the edge, and they're constantly refining this data, so that when it gets into the cloud, it's more refined, so that in the cloud, if an IoT server or a management system wants to pull the cloud to get to the data, or send an alert back to the edge where the IoT device is sitting, they know that the data is real, because the cool thing about our technology is, as it's concurrently going into the cloud from the edge in the AIT module, in the AIT device, and possibly even a gateway, it's concurrently sending the data into the blockchain. That block is immutable, so it cannot be modified once it's written. In order to modify it, you need to go to a new hash, a new block, and write a modification. So therefore, once it's written, it's immutable, which is very cool. It's one of the reasons to use the blockchain. You can go back and check the data coming from the IoT module. You can determine if the intended data is exactly, when you go and make a comparison with an updated poll of the data. You can compare, is the data real? When did the data change? Why did the data change? You can determine that because at the edge, you have control of the edge of the device. Let me give you a perfect example. This is an actual example going on in China right now that I believe the US and Australia and maybe New Zealand needs to look at implementing. In China, in Inner Mongolia, they have connected cows. They're very, very finessey. They want to make sure these cows are very pampered. It's kind of like how in Japan they give the cows, in Kobe, Japan, they give the cows beer, because apparently the cows are alcoholics or something. I don't know. No, I'm joking. So, but in Inner Mongolia, they have tags around the necks of these cows, and it includes GPS functionality. It's a cellular IoT module, which includes GPS functionality, includes the ability to send the data back to the cloud. So it's very, very cool, because, well, why would I want to do that? Why is that so important? It is important because of something called the sharing economy, and it's important for farmers, because remember, these cows have two purposes for cow farmers. One is beef, right? That's poultry. And the other one is milk. And Lord knows China has had various milk scandals in the past. So attesting that the data is real and not tampered with is very critical in China. So what they've done is they formed an enterprise consortium in the blockchain, and they've added insurance companies, and they've added banks, and blockchain platform vendors, and IoT module vendors into this consortium to determine the data. So the data can be determined if it has been changed or not. They know the health of the cows, because you're talking about insurance for the cow farm. You're talking about a continued investment in growing the cow livestock and things like that. We are going to lead the blockchain globally. We're going to do it from all these cool use cases that are actually being implemented right now in China. China's moving forward faster than any other country in the world, except maybe South Korea. I really believe, having joined this company, that China's moving much faster than other countries in the world. They are moving at an accelerated speed. because they see the value of the blockchain. And the president last year said the blockchain is a very important element to the future of China's, Made in China 2025, their Belt and Road.
Yeah.
Blockchain is very important for all of that.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you, Carl. I think we've covered off a lot so far, and there's probably plenty more that we could talk about. I think we're probably reaching our time at this point, though. But I hopefully look forward to talking to you again and diving into some more of these elements.